The smartest people in the room are almost never the ones talking the most. In fact, true cognitive intelligence usually looks like complete self-doubt. If you always feel like you are the one missing something, you need to watch this, because you are probably falling for a massive psychological paradox. Most people assume intelligence announces itself. It does not. The research tells a very different story. Intelligence is quiet, self-questioning, and deeply aware of its own limits. Here are 5 signs that your brain is operating at a much higher level than you give it credit for. In psychology, the Dunning-Kruger effect reveals one of the most uncomfortable truths about human cognition. People with lower ability tend to wildly overestimate their skills, while highly intelligent people constantly doubt themselves. This is not a flaw. It is a feature. If you frequently hear a voice asking, "Am I missing something?" your brain is advanced enough to see the vast scope of what you do not yet know. You notice the gaps in your own understanding, which means you prioritize truth over ego. As the old saying goes, the fool thinks he is wise, but the wise man knows himself to be a fool. You do not accept a flat, surface-level answer. You want to know the why behind the what. A random thought pops into your head, and 2 hours later, you are deep into research on something completely specific that nobody else would have cared about. Deep sea ecosystems, historical design trends, exactly how a specific mechanical gear works. This is not distraction. Studies in the Journal of Individual Differences show a massive correlation between high IQ and a trait called openness to experience. Your brain treats new knowledge like an essential tool. It is constantly seeking complex mental stimulation because it needs it to function at full capacity. You notice shifts, repetitions, and connections in everyday life that fly completely over other people's heads. You can predict how a conversation will end based on tiny early signals. You spot how a project will unravel weeks before it does. You connect 2 completely unrelated ideas to solve a problem or to make a joke. This is a sign of high spatial, visual, and fluid intelligence. Your brain is running background data checks constantly, sorting information into an internal map, spotting anomalies before they fully surface. You do not feel an urgent, anxious need to constantly fill the silence. You genuinely enjoy your own company. You take long walks without headphones. You prefer one deep conversation to a loud, chaotic gathering. Research published in the British Journal of Psychology found that highly intelligent people experience lower life satisfaction when they socialize too frequently. Solitude is not loneliness for you. It is the critical processing space your brain needs to plan, decompress, and build concepts. The silence is not empty. It is where your best thinking actually happens. Your humor is not slapstick. It is sharp, situational, and relies heavily on timing, subtext, and double meanings. You can read a room fast enough to drop a perfectly timed, subtle remark that releases tension nobody else knew how to address. A University of New Mexico study found that verbal intelligence heavily correlates with humor production. To make a truly clever joke, your brain has to simultaneously track what you know, what the listener knows, and find a surprising abstract bridge between the two. In milliseconds. That is not a small cognitive feat. That is your brain operating at a high level of social and linguistic intelligence without you even realizing it. True intelligence is quiet, reflective, and highly adaptable. It doubts itself constantly, not because it is weak, but because it sees enough to know how much it does not yet understand. If your mind is constantly questioning, observing patterns, and seeking the why, you are operating at a much higher cognitive level than you give yourself credit for. The fact that you doubt it is part of the proof. Which of these 5 signs felt most like you? Let me know in the comments and tell me what country you are watching from. I want to know where my audience is. If this helps, subscribe. I will see you in the next one.